Have you ever stumbled upon an animal and then said animal just stares at you for a while? Maybe it made you think, hey, maybe that animal wants me to follow it. Well, I have. I stumbled upon a dog when I was birdwatching on the mountain base several years ago, and we stared at each other for quite a while. It didn't look rabid, so I decided to follow it, just because I'm curious. Did it lead me to somewhere interesting? Nope, we just went in circles, perhaps the dog was just taking a walk. But hey, that concept is not exactly alien, right? We, humans, started our partnership with animals to lead us to something, especially dog that is, as hunting assistant. Some even trained to seek mushrooms. Falconry is another relatively famous example for this. For this video though, I want to introduce you to a somewhat unpopular example of human partnership with animal. This little bird is the Greater Honeyguide. And yes, they guide us to honey. But actually, we didn't even train them. They started the partnership with us. But why though? Well, let me bring up the question. What exactly is Greater Honeyguide? It's probably pretty obvious, and I did specifically mention it earlier. But yes, Greater Honeyguides are birds, which means they are chordates, vertebrates to be precise. Among birds, they are classified within Piciformes order, which is the woodpecker order, though not all of the members are woodpeckers, not literally at least. Did you know that toucans are also in this order? Even though they have large beak, that is not used to peck at woods. And that is also the case for the honeyguides, and their beak is not even exceptional. So yeah, within this order, honeyguides are classified within their own family, Indicatoridae. This family got the name from its type genus, which is indicator, which literally just means indicator by the way. What are they indicating? Well, honey, hence honeyguide. Though the specific behavior that led ornithologists to name them indicator is specifically observed in one species, which is the topic of this video, the Greater Honeyguides. Other honeyguides don't guide human to honey. Well, arguably, one other species do, which is the scaly-throated honeyguide, but we rarely observe them exhibiting such behavior, while the Greater Honeyguides are literally known for it. It's their thing, you know. The scientific name for the Greater Honeyguides is Indicator indicator. So yeah, pretty easy to remember. By the way, some people call them honey birds, but that common name is actually reserved for the genus Prodotiscus, which also belong to the honeyguide family. While honeyguides as a family, and even the genus Indicator, can be found in Africa to Southeast Asia, the Greater Honeyguide can only be found in Sub-Saharan Africa. So yeah, unfortunately, a humble Southeast Asian like me cannot experience being guided to a honey source by a bird, unless other honeyguides actually exhibit such behavior, but we simply haven't got the chance to observe it yet. I'll talk about this behavior later. Let's talk about their morphology first. Although they are called Greater Honeyguide, they are not exceptionally large, only around 20 centimeters long. Their name indicates to the fact that they are bigger than other honeyguides. But actually, they are not significantly bigger either, perhaps around 1 to 2 centimeters difference. In general, they have brownish dorsal and whitish ventral. But, as with many other birds, they exhibit sexual dimorphism. Males have striking pink beak, solid black throat, this white patch behind their eyes, darker colored feathers on their dorsal side, and striking white streaks on their wings. Meanwhile, females typically have duller color. They typically have blackish beak, especially towards the tip, no solid black patch on their throat, no white patch behind their eyes, and the streaks on their wings are brownish, hence not that noticeable. Meanwhile, juveniles and immatures have yellow throat, spreading throughout their ventral side. They also don't have any specific patches that I mentioned earlier, and their beak is typically blackish but will turn pinkish over time. And yeah, honestly, there is not that much going on with their morphology. When I tell people about honeyguides, they always think honeyguides look boring. Some people even say they look like finch, especially because the head of the male look like this. Their overall form looks like a typical passerine bird, but like I said earlier, they are not passerine. They are closer to the woodpeckers. And so, as with many other birds in Piciformes order, they have zygodactyl feet. which means their fourth digit also orients backwards, just like woodpeckers, and parrots, and owls. So yeah, not as passerine looking as you might have thought. But anyway, let's talk about their ecology, because we got quite a lot to talk about. But before that, like I said earlier, greater honeyguides can be found in sub-Saharan Africa. To be more specific, they prefer open woodlands, not rainforests. They are strictly diurnal, as far as we know at least, meaning they are active during the day. This is typically the time when I would talk about their diet, but let's save that for the last. Let's talk about their reproduction first, because it's also quite something. Greater honeyguides, and many other honeyguides actually, are brood parasites. They lay their eggs inside other birds' nests, just like the famous cuckoo, which, if you didn't know, the word cock came from cockle, which came from cuckoo. But anyway, greater honeyguides can parasitize various species of birds, and their eggs are specialized to mimic the host's eggs, because of course, they don't want the host to notice and get rid of their egg. Just to be clear, the egg does not actively mimic a nearby egg, of course. Their mother is genetically selected to lay a certain shape and size of eggs, depends on its preference of hosts. And also, their egg is not exactly a perfect mimic of the host's eggs. You, a human, could clearly see the difference, but not so much for their hosts. Actually, there are some evolutionary arms races going on between brood parasites and their hosts, and I talked about it in my co-evolution and alloparenting video. So if you're curious about that, consider checking those out. But anyway, the hatchlings have hooks on the tip of their beak, which they use to kill other hatchlings in the nest, and destroy the remaining eggs if there is still any. Basically, they monopolize the nest, so that their host will only feed them. They don't exactly seek the other hatchlings and slay them. They are blind after all. They will instinctively bite things, including human hands, but will not bite their host, which is convenient. This hook will not be shed. Instead, it will gradually be assimilated to their beak as they grow and develop. While still being nurtured by their hosts, they eat whatever their hosts give, including fruits if their host is frugivore. After about a month, they will fledge and leave the host nest, and then they will change their diet into primarily eating bees. Well, kinda. You see, there are other bee eaters that currently exist. In fact, there is a group of birds that is literally called bee eater, the entire Meropidae family. The difference is, bee eaters catch bees while they are flying, but that's not the case for the honeyguides. Honeyguides ransack their nests and eat the content. Actually, they don't exactly eat the honey, but they do eat the beeswax. The point is, they typically don't eat adult bees, and so they don't need to be wary of their sting. But still, infiltrating a beehive is not an easy task, and looking at the honeyguides, they don't even have anything that would help them do so. Well, like what many people would say, if you cannot do it yourself, ask other people for help. Well, you could technically give up, but no giving up for the greater honeyguides. And so, what the greater honeyguides do is ask other people for help. Literally, asking humans for help. And how do they do so? They approach humans and they chirp like this. If they got the human's attention, then they will fly towards a beehive while chirping. When they arrive, they also perform a specific call like this, indicating you have reached the goal. Hopefully, the human will ransack the beehive for honey, and then the greater honeyguide could feast on what's left. Other honeyguide species that live in the area also take advantage of this behavior and chime in on the ransacked beehive. If no humans are available for whatever reason, greater honeyguides would lead honey badgers instead. And maybe other animals, but we're not exactly sure about that. In some circumstances, they might choose to just scavenge on what's left without guiding humans themselves, but it typically yields less reward for them, which is why the greater honeyguides had established a deep association with humans for so long that we are literally an example of a mutualistic symbiosis, without exactly domesticating said animals. Actually, I've seen other people saying greater honeyguides is the ones domesticating us, but obviously, that's not exactly the case either. Let's talk about this association. So you might think, oh yeah, it's neat that this little bird could guide us to honey. But it's just honey, not exactly a big deal. While yes, that is most likely true for us urban dweller, a little help could matter a lot for foraging tribes. Several African tribes still forage often, especially the Hadza. Research showed that the association with greater honeyguides yield to 500% increase to their honey yield, and that is around 8 to 10% of their total diet, which is significant. Because this association is beneficial for both parties, some tribes even develop specific signals to call the greater honeyguides. For example, this is the signal employed by the Yao people. You could even hear the birds coming over and performing their chirping. While this is the signal employed by the Hadza people. Some tribes tell their people to respect the honey guides, properly giving them rewards in return for guiding them to honey. Their share of the loot. Besides the idea of respecting them, people are also worried that honey guides might stop guiding humans if they don't get their share of the loot, which is understandable and it's rational. Some people even tell the tale that honey guides might even trick people and guide them to peril as a punishment for unjust behavior. And so, it is definitely understandable how the people really respect honey guides. However, that's not what the Hadza people do. Instead, they burn honeycombs, or at least hiding them, so that the honey guides starve. The idea is, if they are starving, they are more eager to guide humans to honey, which you gotta admit is a sound logic, but I'm sure some people wouldn't like the idea. But then, the question is, do greater honeyguides ever actually punish humans for it? While yes, there are occasions where honeyguides did not lead people to beehives, some even led to snakes, the authors of this publication concluded that the honeyguides were not deliberately misleading humans. Those are just honest mistakes. However, those honest mistakes could be advantageous for the honeyguides because the humans started to believe that they do need to share the loot to the honeyguides. So yeah, a truly fascinating association. Like I said earlier, there are another species that might exhibit similar association, which is the scaly-throated honeyguide, but we rarely observe that behavior. And who knows, maybe other species actually exhibit such behavior. What I know is, research on them are still being done. You could even find several research on them in the past 5 years, and it looks like it is not stopping soon, which is great. So yeah, who knows what we'll learn in the future. But for now, let's just learn what is known. And that's all for now. Oh, by the way, if you could spend a little more time, go ahead and check the description where I list the references for this video. You'll see some interesting titles there. Love it when authors are creative with their titles. Anyway, enjoy your day.